In today's music, bass is an extremely important factor. Done right, it can give a track a powerful, professional impact. But done wrong, it can leave the mix with nothing to stand on. So what might you be doing wrong? To help clean up your low end, here are 8 ways to improve bass in the mix. Number 1. Select the right source. It might seem an obvious question, but is your bass sound actually the right one for your track? Audition new sounds to find a more appropriate starting point rather than trying to force your original bass into the mix, just like we're doing here in Complete Control. As parts of a project build up, things change, and trying to make an inappropriate sound fit in will take much more work than just selecting a new one that works straight away. If your bass just isn't working anymore, don't get too attached. Number 2, find the personality bands. A bass sound doesn't just hit in the very lowest frequencies. A bass guitar sound like this one from SCARBEE Pre-Bass will also have other bands that contribute to its personality. Engineers mixing bass don't just focus on the lowest of the low. A bass sound can have other useful frequencies that can be emphasized. You can bring out these frequencies, sometimes called the nose of the bass, to give the instrument more presence and character. A synth bass patch might also contain a lot of personality higher up that you can emphasize. Never forget to focus on the whole sound, not just the low end. Number 3, mono the low end. Below a certain point, stereo bass is usually avoided. In orchestral recordings, like this one here in Action Strings, you'll usually find the bass sounds on the right. Cut down on the width below about 140 Hz while mixing to ensure that your bass won't cause problems if it's ever played back on a mono system. Making sure your bass is mono will keep it as a steady foundation and will prevent problems if the track's ever played back in a mono sound system. Number 4, compressing for bass. When compressing a whole mix or a group, the bass region is often the loudest, and more likely to trigger gain reduction when it plays, bringing down the levels of everything else with it, and making the mix pump to its tune. If this is the effect you want, then go for it. But otherwise, turn on your compressor's sidechain filter to remove that harsh bass energy from its response. Hear the difference when we switch on and increase the detector Highpass in Supercharger GT, and see how different the gain reduction response can be. Number 5. Don't just high-pass. One piece of advice handed down from generation to generation is to high-pass every track. But it's entirely possible that this can cause a few problems of its own in a modern mix. When you filter an audio channel, its phase response is changed, and even types of filter that avoid this can end up smearing the transient attacks of the sound. Simply high-passing because you think you should can create more problems than it solves. But it's always dependent on your source audio. A synth will often be far safer in the bass region than something recorded in a room with a microphone. Number 6. Kick and bass worries. Probably the most crucial way to a solid low end is to make sure the kick and the bass work well together, and that means keeping them both out of each other's way. There are 3 ways to do this. You can tune one, the other, or both parts, literally pitching them apart so the kick and the bass hit different frequencies. This might mean changing the notes of your bass line, tuning the pitch of the kick, or a bit of both. If tuning's not a good solution, try timing. Kicks are quick, but most bass tones last longer. Try nudging the bass later in time by just a small amount, using delay or simply dragging the audio. And see if you can help the bass poke through without losing its impact. Then there's sidechaining. By adding a compressor to the bass channel and feeding it from the kick signal, you can reduce the volume of the bass whenever the kick plays. Usually you'll want to make this happen quickly and transparently, so set fast attack and release times on the compressor. Number 7. Solo and compare. How do commercial tracks get that tight low end that you want for yourself? There's only one way to find out, that you might never have tried. Listen to it in isolation. By adding a low-pass filter to your master channel, you can solo just the bass region of your track, and you can do the same with a commercial track to compare the response, level, and dynamics of the bass only. By listening to just the low end here, the kick seems to be getting covered by the bass. We'll bring the lowest part of the beat track up a little. And then try listening to the 2 again. It's better balanced, but there's still some way to go. Number 8. Make bass work on small speakers. Not everybody listens to your music on great sound systems, but that doesn't mean you can't give them better bass. Using a high-pass filter, we can crudely simulate a small, tinny speaker. Add a saturation plugin like Driver to the bass track, or on a return channel for the bass with a low-pass filter before it. Cranking up the saturation introduces distortion higher up, where it can be heard on small speakers. And since this distortion is derived from the bass frequencies, it gives the impression of the original low-down bass sound, even when it's not actually there. The challenge is to balance the saturation to work on small speakers, yet also not push it too hard so it's unbalanced on large speakers.